Hello, this is Jay Mitchell, and we are back with another episode of the Libertarian Uncensored podcast, going over all the posts on the Libertarian Uncensored subreddit. Let's get right into it. So first we have insurer stocks fall after Trump says we're going to kick out the middleman from Warriors.com by Ninja Lover, and they added shares of health insurers operating pharmacy benefit managers fell on Monday after U.S. President-elect Donald Trump called them middlemen who drive up costs and said he plans to eliminate their role. And I guess I would agree with that. I personally don't really care for how the whole insurance industry operates because, especially if people are forced to get it if they don't want to. But, so sometimes middlemen can be useful. But I guess if people do want to cut out the middleman, they should be able to as well. And yeah, I think if people want another source to pay for their healthcare other than the insurance industries, like if they want to pay for government-funded healthcare with their taxpayer dollars, I think they should be able to do so. But with that being said, some people might prefer the insurance industry as well, and I think they should be able to pay for their healthcare through the insurance industry as well. And yeah, that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Argentina exited recession as Malay eyes growth before midterms from Bloomberg.com by Ninja Lover. And yeah, I really like what Malay is doing in Argentina. I wish we could have them up here in the States. And yeah, I'm very glad that the Argentinian economy seems to do well, especially after decades of it flailing under Peronism. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Trump threatens to straighten out the press with more lawsuits, and then they added in parentheses, politician wakes taxpayers' money as billions to fight free speech from the Rap.com by CH4Locks, and that's cross post from the journalism subreddit. And yeah, I personally don't care for the press and how it exists to more so push an agenda than anything else, but I think, you should just let them become irrelevant rather than make yourself look bad by constantly suing them. I personally don't care for, how like ABC News is defame Trump and he's suing them over defamation, but I personally don't think defamation should be a thing. I think it goes against free speech. I think you should be able to say whatever you want against other people without fearing legal consequences for it. If you want to say, oh, I think they drink the blood of newborn babies, I personally don't think a lot of people would agree with that, but, you should be able to do so. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have exclusive. Trump team wants to stop automated vehicle car crash reporting rule that Tesla opposes. Musk argues that it is unfairly targeted his company. Tesla accounted for 40 out of 45 fatal crashes reported. NHTSA said such data is crucial to evaluating the safety of self-driving technology. From Reuters.com, posted by Ninja Lover, and that was a cross post from the r/energy subreddit. And ultimately, I get that could be Elon pushing for that, but I definitely don't think, the private companies should be forced to report anything to the government that they don't want to, and that includes Tesla, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have, after ending race-based admissions, black student enrollment at Harvard Law drops by more than half. By Lemon Limelight, and they said from the New York Times, black student enrollment at Harvard Law dropped by more than half. The number of black students entering Harvard Law School dropped sharply this fall after last year's Supreme Court decision banning affirmative action in college admissions. According to enrollment data released on Monday, Harvard Law enrolled 19 first-year black students, or 3.4% of the class, the lowest number since the 1960s, according to the data from the American Bar Association. Last year, the law school's first-year class had 43 black students, according to analysis by the New York Times. While changes in data calculation may explain some year-to-year changes, the decline at Harvard was much sharper than other elite law schools. It was notable not only for its severity, but also because of the school's past role in educating some of the nation's best-known black lawyers. The Supreme Court decision and the fact that Harvard College was named in the case played a role, according to David B. Wilkins, a Harvard law professor who has studied black urbanization in the legal profession. The law school also saw a steep decline in Hispanic students to 39 students, or 6.8% this fall, from 63 students, or 11% of the total in 2023. Enrollment of white and Asian students increased. And yeah, I personally would say I'm against affirmative action. I think, Harvard, I think the best people should be the ones getting the positions regardless of their race. But I think if Harvard did want to hire a greater percentage of more black and Hispanic students than they are qualified or as representatives of the total population, then I think they should be able to. Ultimately, I think people should be willing to justify whatever they want to justify. I personally don't care for the elitist circle jerk of the Ivy League, but yeah, they should be able to do whatever they want to, I would say. And I think that Harvard, I forgot if they're public or private. I think they're public. So, if people want to give their taxpayer dollars to Harvard, they should be able to do so. If they don't, I think it's private. So I think Harvard should be able to, it's a private university. It should be able to do whatever it wants to. And yeah, that's my thoughts on that issue. And for public universities, I think the same thing. Only if taxpayers don't like what they're doing, they shouldn't be forced to send their taxpayer dollars there. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Democrats pick Jerry Connolly for oversight post, rejecting Ocasio-Cortez bid. Original title from Ground News was by Dr. Who 07. And yeah, I personally don't really care for either of those guys, but I guess Jerry Connolly, the Democrats did just lose the election because they're increasingly the party of the establishment, and even if someone agrees with the establishment like 95% of the time, like Ocasio-Cortez does, they still won't like that, and they still won't choose you for leadership positions. And yeah, that's my thoughts there. Ultimately, I think the Democrats would have probably been better off choosing Ocasio-Cortez, even if I don't personally agree with everything she thinks, because she's more of a populist, and that's obviously the direction the country is heading right now thanks to social media. It's really all populism, but the Democrats seem to be very hesitant about embracing that, like how they screwed Bernie out of the nomination in 2016 and 2020, even though he was by far the most populist candidate. And yeah, ultimately they'll justify what they justify, and if it ends up killing the party, I would say that's probably just a plus for it in the long run, because people, I think, are tired of the Democratic Party after 200 some years. Same with the Republican Party, even though they've been around a few less decades. I think it's time to get some new parties in there. But I won't hold my breath. These two parties seem to be unkillable at this point, almost too big to fail, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have New York considering special hotline just for CEOs to report alleged threats to their safety after Brian Thompson killing, from LA Times, the LatinTimes.com by Ninja Lover, and that's from the Not the Onion subreddit. I think if people I personally don't think any group should be given special privileges regardless of their race or economic status, and that would include CEOs. So I personally would be against this, but the state's going to justify what it justifies, and that's my thoughts there. And then we have Trump sues Iowa poster and Seltzer for brazen election interference and fraud. And in parentheses, they added politician wastes taxpayers millions to fight poll results he dislikes, from therap.com by CH4Locks, and that's another. I think that's another story they did on. That's crossovers from the Bulwark subreddit, by the way. And yeah, as I said earlier, I don't care for Ann Seltzer. She's a DNC propagandist, especially of how the polls she pushed to say, "Oh, Trump's going to lose this election big." But I think that's her free speech to do so, and I don't think the court should be determining what speech is free or not. That's why I'm against things like defamation, libel, and slander as legal concepts, and that's my thoughts there. Then we have Hauser versus Corson plans to release Matt Gaetz ethics report from independent.co.uk by Baton Ferchan. And yeah, I think more transparency is always good. I think they're only kind of releasing the report because Matt Gaetz is a political opponent of the establishment, but I don't think it really matters too much. I think he seems to be kind of done with politics right now, but I guess we'll have to wait and see if he runs for the House again. And yeah, that's my thoughts on that issue. And even then, if even if he does mark himself as anti-establishment, he might just be end up like controlled opposition. Most of the anti-establishment politicians in Washington only seem to end up like controlled opposition, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Housing and Active Terrorism for Ragnar OKXG, and that's a cross post from the Anti-Work subreddit. Prosecutors charge suspect of killing United Healthcare CEO as an act of terrorism. Then it says the man accused of killing United Healthcare CEO has been charged with murder as an act of terrorism. Prosecutors said Tuesday as they worked to bring him to New York from a Pennsylvania jail. Luigi Mangione already was charged with murder in the December 4th killing of Brian Thompson, but the incident could help move along procedural steps toward extraditing the suspect. And yeah, I think I'm very against terrorism as a label because the state can determine anything it doesn't like to be terrorism. Same with the label hate crime. Not so much against that label as well. But it just goes to show you how I'm sure if the left had its way, they would have convicted that Daniel Penny of terrorism for killing that Jordan Neely. So, ultimately, terrorism is just going to be thrown around as a label of whatever the outgroup does. And yeah, that's why I personally don't care for it at all. And yeah, ultimately, if people want to start using violence, I think they should be able to justify it. But if you want to label that terrorism, I don't think that should be a legal label. But and I personally think we should be anti-violence. But it's interesting how the left, who claims to care so much about other people, and they're all the self-proclaimed empaths, will justify violence if it's against a member of the outgroup like Brian Thompson. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have hospitals gave patients meds during childbirth and they reported them for positive drug tests from the MarshallProject.org, posted by Long Jumping Gain 807, across was from the neoliberal subreddit. And yeah, I don't think that's good. But ultimately, that's why I don't really trust hospitals sometimes, as that they will usually bend over to whatever the state tells them to do. And yeah, that's why we need more private hospitals who are willing to resist the state if need be. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have CDC confirms first case of severe bird flu in U.S. from abcnews.go.com by Swamphanky Dan. And yeah, hopefully this isn't going to be another COVID situation, but hopefully I think people are a little wiser this time and won't let COVID media fear-mongering be pushed to the same extent it was last time. So yeah, ultimately people should believe whatever they want to believe, but don't try and push other people around because the TV says to. That's what we saw during COVID, and hopefully we don't see it again during bird flu. And that's my thoughts on that issue. And yeah, I think we're going to wrap it up there. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.